Hey, welcome. In this video, we're going to show you the 22-point flight planning checklist. I'm Matthew James, and I've got with me today Captain Robert James. He works in the fractional jet industry, flies Cirrus aircraft with pilot mastery, and does a lot of awesome training. And he's here to help us here with this 22-point flight planning checklist today. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, good. Nice to talk to you, Matt.
Yeah, dude, I'm glad to have you on the line, and I'm really happy to bring you in on this and get a really good 30,000-foot view of flight planning. Of course, we'll go in more in depth as time goes on, but for this particular video, we're just gonna take that 22-point checklist that you guys just downloaded, and we're just gonna explain it so that you guys understand what's in it, and try and give you guys as much as we can on that. Okay, so. Starting on the left, you can see the 22-point flight planning checklist on the screen on the left side. It goes down, and then the second column is the rest of it. So we're going to start with the first thing that you want to do if you know where you're going to fly is, get ready for your flight. This is kind of funny, but just get something to drink, man. Get some coffee. We're all pilots. We're going to drink some coffee to keep ourselves going because that's what we do. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I gotta get the cup of mud before I leave the ground.
Yep, and we've got some ideas for flight planning. We're going to go into a really quick mini flight planning session just so you can see some of the resources that we use here. So the first thing that you need to do, you wake up, you're going to fly from point A to point B, turn on the weather channel, jump online, and check your weather report. So it looks like you've got some stuff up there, some resources. You want to take me through that real quick so we can see what you're looking at, Bob?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm gonna start to build a little bit of weather information here really quick and kind of run through. But I think your start on the coffee, for me, that is an absolute must in the morning. I will generally get up, I'll check the weather channel for initial weather reports. And basically what I'm looking at is I'm trying to look at the big picture of the U.S. And when we do that, in fact, let me just back out real quick here and we'll go back to the U.S. When I go to watch the weather channel or any of the kind of the news weather organizations, I'm looking for big picture items. I want to know where fronts are located in the country, and that's one of the reasons is because I do a lot of back and forth across the country with the jets that I fly. But what it does too is when I'm getting ready to go out in the Cirrus, when I get home from flying the jet and it's time to go flight train, and it's time to go fly for fun or take the wife and kids somewhere, I want to know what's happening on a big picture scale. So that's why I personally will go in and I'll look at the Weather Channel, and I'll even go onto their website and start just kind of getting some of their high-level commentary on the country, trends, what's happening within the country. And then I'm going to start zooming in from there. Eat a good breakfast in the morning. If you're going to be flying early, just make sure you've got a good caloric intake because we've got to have that brain power. We're going to be making a lot of calculations to fly and fly well. And then also on the flight bag check, listen, it's just make sure your flight bag has the proper tools in it that you're going to need. And when I say that, I'm talking about bring your iPad. If you fly with an iPad and you use, a service like ForeFlight. This is a service that I do personally fly with. Now, I've got a lot of whiz-bang stuff that I fly with in the Cirrus, and I've got a lot of tools that I use in the jet, but I still bring this iPad with me and use it as a backup because a lot of my Jeppesen-Sanderson approach plates and charts are also located on that device as well. So I personally like using ForeFlight. We'll go into some other tools for you guys as we get a little deeper into this material. Let's see what else here on the checklist. Flight bag, iPad. I personally like to have in there an extra headset. I carry 2 headsets, believe it or not, with me. And that is just on the off chance that I end up with a problem. And my second headset will normally be like a compact headset, like a small Sennheiser, not the big David Clark, not the big Bose, but something I can just plug into the mic, plug into the phone of that plane, and that's my emergency kind of backup for audio.
Yep. And hey Bob, we also have flight bag for the flight bag and survival bag checks. We're going to have downloadable PDFs, checklists, that break these down. I mean, those could be their own huge checklists in and of themselves, so that you can go through there. It's not about, okay, yeah, I've got my flight bag today, I'm good to go. It's about making sure that you show up to the airport with everything that you need inside of it, because you don't want to get in the cockpit and be halfway to Timbuktu before you realize that you're missing one of the one of your VFR sectionals as you cross over or something. I mean, if you have your iPad, you're probably good to go. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. We have
Good.
those downloadables. Um,
All
if you want
right.
to pick it up, I mean, moving from
Okay,
there, just
survival bag check. This is an important one because, especially if you're going to be flying out west or you're going to be doing Caribbean flying, oceanic flying, you're over water.
hmm
These are all things I think that people should have. I want to call it, a survival bag is a great term. The other term that I like to call it is my go bag. In that go bag, I'm going to carry basically, an extra change of clothes, an extra change of boxers, t-shirt, toothbrush, small toothpaste, etc. And then in there as well, I'll keep one of those survival blankets, kind of those Astro blankets. It's a specially made insulator, and I'll also keep a signal mirror in that small bag. It's a real small duffel. Since we're doing this on the computer, I can't really show you what I carry with me, but it's a small duffel, and it's got the items like a mini first aid kit, signal mirror. That's where I carry my Spot. That's that device that allows you to hit the button and transmit an emergency signal, etc. Keys, wallet, cell phone, and pilot certificate. Make sure you've got all your pilot certificates. I've been ramp checked in my career, I think 5 or 6 times. And so every time, all they're looking for, they just want to see your pilot certificate and your medical. And I just want to elaborate on that really quick. Guys, don't freak out when you get ramp checked. It's not a big deal. The guys just have to log that stuff. They're basically going out to justify their job at the FAA as safety inspectors, and their job is to go out and just look at your pilot certificate and your medical. And it's okay if you hand it to them, they're not going to keep the darn thing and take it away from you. I think there's been a fear in the industry that if you hand over or surrender your certificate, they're going to take it from you. It doesn't work like that. I just want to tell you, after 5 or 6 of these. The other thing is, get that caffeine refill, head out to the FBO after you've done a few things. And I think I want to kind of talk about those those things to think about as well. Matt, I'm going to let you interject. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a really good point to make. At this point in the process, you could actually do most of the planning that's on this 22-point flight planning checklist at home. So if you don't need to run off to the FBO at this point, then skip this check until you actually need to go there. But for the sake of this, we're going to say that this is the point in which you are going to grab your flight bags, your keys, wallet, cell phone, pilot certificate, right, and you're going to jump in the car and head off to the FBO, and then you're going to continue with your weather checks and doing some flight planning, say with your CFI or somebody once you get there. Obviously, if you're going to do it on your own, you could do it at home or you could do it at the airport. So.
Yep, totally agree. Totally agree. And by the way, I personally will do the bulk of all the flight planning. I'll actually do that all at home. That flight planning process actually starts 3 days out from a flight for me. I'm looking at that high-level weather. I'm looking at that big picture, and I'm watching weather trends, both nationally and regionally and locally. So we start big and we just start working our way down, kind of like Class Bravo airspace. I think that's a great way to think of it. I'm looking at the edges of the airspace, and now I'm starting to break myself down into the middle where I'm going to be flying from and then subsequently flying to. So, Matt, if it's okay, I was going to take them through today some of the stuff that I personally do to get ready for a flight. From a weather perspective, and then you and I can start to talk about some of the flight planning things that you and I both use as pilots, that we've used in the cockpit to help these guys. How does that sound if we just run through that weather with them?
Yeah, we'll just run through this, real quick and give you guys. We're just going to give the 30,000-foot overview of what needs to be checked and give you guys some of the basics. Of course, in the future and so on another call, we will be breaking these down, very detailed, very in depth, so that you guys get a very good understanding of what what is entailed in each one of these steps. So, but with that, yes, Bob, I would certainly love to see what you're gonna show us, what resources you use, what it is that you're looking at. So, take it away for a little bit.
So we started up here with kind of checking the weather channel, and I start my weather checks before I'm going to go fly, or I've got to go out and fly the jet, or I go out and fly the Cirrus. I start weather checks. So if I've been off for a week, I'll start weather checking about 3 days in advance, and that's going to help give me the data I need to know, okay, what's happening on a kind of on a big scale, if you will, around the country. So A lot of pilots will actually, and by the way, the order in which this checklist is you don't have to do it in this particular order, but it's a great order that this checklist has been built into. And so I want to say that, first of all, a lot of pilots will, not a lot, a few pilots out there do make the mistake of really only checking METARs. It is something that I'm going to check locally, and I'm going to watch, because what I'm checking for, believe it or not, are trends in altimeter settings, and I'm also checking trends, with respect to winds and cloud cover. I want to start to get an idea as to what's happening locally. But I know that the global picture, the big items, were covered on the Weather Channel, and I had a chance to look at some other charts. We'll cover those more in depth here in a few minutes. But the first step is what's happening locally right now, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, the night before. What's happening with my airport locally? And I'm also going to be checking the TAFs as well. So if we go in, I'm just going to put in KPHX, since that's the large airport, that basically gives us our TAF reporting here in Phoenix. I'm going to start to check those Zulu time trends, and I want to know what kind of weather am I dealing with here at my departure, and then I'll load those TAFs in the night before and check the arrival airport as well. So I'm going through the METARs, but now I'm checking TAFs. So basically I went big picture with like the Weather Channel and all the weather guys, and zoomed it in, and now I'm going to look at METARs, and I'm going to start to zoom myself back out, which is go local to destination with my weather search. One of the key functions that is crucial, in my opinion, is the area forecast. And that is something that I'm going to check the night before. And I'm not going to go into all the valid times. You guys are educated pilots enough to be able to know what the requirements are, how often these reports come out. But they are going to come up geographically for these various sections of the country. And since we're in Arizona, let's just scroll down really quick and just kind of take a look at what's going on in Arizona. The reason that this report is so important to me is I want to know where are the bases of the clouds. And if I was flying in northern Arizona, which is where I do a lot of my flying, up to Sedona, up to Flagstaff, I can see that we've got broken clouds at 8,000, tops to 22,000. Now, if I'm in the Cirrus and I've got the ability to, to put on icing protection with that aircraft with the FICI, the Flight into Known Icing System, then I have the ability to pop through any possible icing. As we're getting into wintertime, guys, it's something you're going to need to consider. So if you're not IFR rated, or you don't have flight into known icing equipped aircraft that you're flying, high level turboprops, turbojets, or high level singles, you got to make sure you're checking this report, because this report is going to tell you where these clouds are located. And then the other thing that you can use are the airmets and the sigmats to find out about icing, mountain obscuration, the turbulence, the gotchas, the things that are going to get you into trouble. Okay, so that area forecast is a really important check for me. And if I'm going from state to state, let's say I'm going Arizona up to Colorado, I'm going to fly the airplane up to Telluride because me and the family are going up there for a week of vacation. I will make sure that I've done state to state coverage on this as I'm kind of zooming out. The next thing in this, let me just pull up this next tab, is NOTAMs. I'm going to start to check those NOTAMs for my local airport. What are kind of some of the gotchas that can bite me? And by the way, you can move this type of weather search around. Don't feel like the order that I'm giving this to you in is the absolute, okay, this is Bob's specific order. I will actually look at some of this stuff sometimes in a different order, but I just want you guys to be familiar with the tools that you've got to be looking at when you are looking at weather, and then subsequently the notice to airmen, runway closures, arrivals and departure changes. Are there changes to an approach? Are there changes to the airport itself? So you've got the various types of NOTAMs, local NOTAMs, distant NOTAMs. These are all things we're going to check, and I highly recommend, with all of the weather checking that I'm talking about now, get a flight briefing from Flight Service. Get your tail number logged into the system. Get that weather briefing from those guys. Get another bird's eye view. It's a great second opinion in my mind. I will also, along with that area forecast, I will also start looking at winds aloft, because we don't take airplanes in cruise flight and fly them close to the ground. We go high. And the reason we go high is because we want to save fuel and we want to maybe catch some better winds. So what I'm going to do on that is I'm going to go in and I'm going to get right here, let me back up one more, the official National Weather Service textual winds and temperatures aloft. And I've got that tab preloaded, ready to go. And right now, I'm looking to say, okay, if I was going to fly up north and I'm going up to Flagstaff, I'm probably going to be going around 9,000 feet. 6,000 feet's a little bit low, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to find out where the wind's blowing out of. Looks like they're blowing out of the west. Looks like we've got speeds of about 22 knots. And right now, looks like we're below the freezing level. But what did we see on those clouds? They were at 8,000 feet. So I'm not going to be flying at 9,000 feet. So it looks like the winds are going to be just a little bit less in speed if I drop below the cloud layers and fly at, say, 7,500 feet. So these are just things to think about. The other part of this is temporary flight restrictions, TFRs. And you can get the TFR information, which is kind of slick. SkyVector is actually a cool kind of a cool device that you can use. Skyvector.com if you haven't been there. But it will show you graphically the TFRs that are going on in the country. And all you have to do, and it's the entire country on sectional charts. So you can go, and I'm going to use Washington, D.C. because there's always a TFR in Washington, D.C. You can see it. They're denoted with these little red circles. You can click on there, and you can find out more information about those TFRs. Make sure that you're getting TFR information from your flight service briefer. It's included in those briefings, but you got to make sure that if for some reason it got missed during the discussion, you got to make sure you're asking for temporary flight restrictions. Also, another thing for those of you that are GPS pilots, ask for GPS NOTAMs. Find out if there's going to be any GPS outages along your route of flight. A lot of guys neglect that, but it's super important that you remember to get that. And you can go in and basically find out, okay, there's a TFR. I went over Disneyland the other day. I was in Southern California. I saw the little red circle. I'm just like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's Disneyland. I pulled it up. I looked at it near Anaheim, obviously TFR, and it'll give you all the information. The other part of this, too, is your pilot reports. I cannot place enough emphasis on pilot reports. Let me just put in Prescott because I know there's a pilot report up there. Let's see if I can zoom this in here. Okay, so the reason why pilot reports are super, super important in my mind is, one, they're going to tell us if these guys are flying VFR, IFR, what kind of turbulence they're getting, if they're getting icing. We want to know about that. So these guys are going to give you a lot of information. And as a pilot, I beg of you, when you're out there flying, create pilot reports and pass those along to flight service. And on your sectional charts, you've got those frequencies that you can put in to your radios and communicate to the rest of us. I do that for you guys as well. If I'm taking the jet and I'm climbing through 16,000 feet and I level off out of Southern California and they keep me down at low at 16,000 feet, I'm going to build a quick pilot report on my scratch pad, on my iPad, or you can put it on a scratch piece of paper, and I'm going to load that time and all this data in there so that flight service can get this information from you. What is it like where you're flying? And you can be very specific. I noticed at Cessna 208 at 10:57 this morning, he was off the Drake 063 degree radial at 45 miles, and he was at 12,000 feet getting moderate turbulence. Well, now you have an idea of what you're dealing with if you're a small aircraft. You know that northwest of Drake at 45 nautical miles out of Prescott, Arizona, you're going to be getting popped with some bumps. And that kind of matches up. You've got low clouds at 8,000 feet. You're in mountainous terrain. The winds are blowing at 250 degrees at 22, 25 knots of speed. You're probably going to get knocked around a little bit. So now, guys, are you starting to see that picture that's developing that we're creating by looking at this weather? Hopefully you're starting to see the same thing, and you can kind of visualize, oh, with all these resources that we're looking at as a team right now we have the ability to start to piece together this picture to increase our safety. Matt, anything you want to add?
No, I was going to say, this is stuff that, we're just going through the checklist, trying to give you guys the 30,000 foot view of what's going on here. And this stuff, it's confusing. A lot of this stuff is written in code. The TAFs, the METARs, the area forecast. A lot of this stuff doesn't read like you would read a book. So, Bob, you're doing an amazing job of going through this and really showing this stuff. But I could almost guarantee when these guys leave today, they're probably going to have questions still about how it works. So I just want to clarify that. This stuff is a little complicated. We do break this stuff down, and we're going to break it down in some of our upcoming calls, and in our we're also gonna throw these videos in our in our weather course, and it's also going to be broken down and put into our flight planning course as well. So you guys are going to see how exactly every single one of these breaks down, so that you don't have any questions as to how to read this stuff, but. No, I'm over here taking notes myself because this is good stuff. As a helicopter guy,
Ooh.
I don't write it. I don't look at enough of this stuff. So, I like what you're doing. I don't want to overwhelm these guys too much today with it. So, we'll hit them up and get a little more detailed in the future calls. We can continue moving on and, wrap up with, a few resources that they can use for doing some actual, right-brained flight planning stuff, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the kind of the takeaway here is that as we move into technical publications and charts, there's a lot of tools and resources that we use as pilots, and a lot of you guys know about a lot of this stuff, I'm sure. But let me just cover really quickly on your publications and charts. Make sure you've got all your pubs, your technical publications and charts are all up to date. You've got a current AFD, you've got current sectional charts on board the airplane. And I've talked with pilots, especially even some of my guys that fly with Cirrus. They're like, "Nah, man, I don't want to carry a chart with me." I'm like, "Yeah, no, we need to carry a chart with us because if that multi-function display with that moving map goes down, you don't have a backup plan." And we got to know where we are at all times. It's our responsibility as pilots to make sure that we're doing that. In terms of drawing lines and flight planning, Matt, I'm going to let you kind of cover some of that. You had some thoughts and some things that you wanted to talk about, so I'm going to kind of let you take it away in regards to the flight planning section. Why don't you go ahead and kind of talk about that stuff with everybody?
Yeah, that's fine. You've still got the controls over there, so we're going to leave it on your end, but if you want to bring up SkyVector, and I see that you're on VFRmap.com there. Those are two really amazing resources that you can use that don't cost anything as a new pilot, as somebody that just wants to do some quick reference material and learn about. But if you want to use it for learning purposes, that's fine. But it's really good reference material to go in there, find some up-to-date pubs, pick your point A and pick your point B, and draw a line between the two. And keep this in mind, VFR map, you can't do that. VFR map is good for looking at getting that overall look of where you're going, but SkyVector is what we're going to use here to actually start drawing lines. And what I'd like to do, if you would, can you scroll down to Florida?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was just thinking I'm head down to your neck of the woods here. Go ahead.
Yep. Like I said, the first thing you do, we're going to make this real quick, so that you can see. If you would, you can either scroll in on St. Augustine, or you can actually type it in up there in the top left up there. It's KSJG. You can type it in, and it'll automatically zoom right in on St. Augustine there. Okay. And I think it says go. I think that's what it says.
Yeah, I thought I hit the button. It's just I got a little bit of a slow connection today, so it should get there.
Yeah, plus we have enough recording things going to choke an ox. But once it comes in there, what you can do is start the flight planning process, and it'll bring it up. You can actually right-click on the airport itself, and you can look at the weather, and it'll give you the opportunity to start your flight planning process. If it's not coming up, Bob, you can just scroll up there.
Yeah, I will.
And look
I'll
at
just pull up the coast. Here we go. Flagler. Let me just kind of work my way up the coast here.
Yeah, I'll stop you when I see it.
Yep. I just got to move. I got to move slow because the connection is just a little bit slow on my side. Hold on. Fernandina, Jacksonville. Here we go.
Yep. That's one big benefit to having some paper maps is you don't have to wait for them to load, right?
Exactly. So we're sitting right here. Let me just kind of zoom in a little bit there. Oops. Sorry. Let me go back the other way. There we go.
Yep.
All right. St. Augustine.
Let's say you right-click on that. There. What it's going to do is it's going to bring up some planning options for you. So you can see that it brings up the VOR, the airport itself. It looks like a possible intersection and a GPS point. We're going to start off with the top there. So we're going to click on plan, and then It looks like it's headed off into the middle of nowhere. So what we're going to do now is scroll. I actually wanted
You want to use a flight plan?
Yeah, what I wanted to do, click on flight plan there. What we're going to do is build. Oh, I see why it's got all these other points in there.
Yeah,
that's why.
It's got all my other points. So let me just delete those out really quick because I was building a flight plan up in the northern Arizona area. So let me just pull those out of my. Well, there you go. There's real life. Okay, so there's our starting point.
Okay.
And so we can just build our points here. Let me type it in.
Yep.
K.
Say you want to fly to Cedar Key. You can type in KCDK for Cedar Key, and then what it's going to do is it's going to drop a single line in between the 2 points, and then bam, if you want a very basic flight plan, that's all you actually have to do. And then what you can do, if you see that line is going through some major airspace, this particular one doesn't happen to be going in through anything huge.
It doesn't look like anything major. No, in fact, it looks like it's missing some restricted areas, which is good.
Yep.
And it looks like we're just going to probably topping over some uncontrolled fields with some Class E airspace. So that works good. That's a great route.
Yeah,
cool.
I was going to say, let's say you did want to, skirt around something or fly over Uncle Bob's house or something. You can actually show that, if you would, just grab hold of that pink line and drag it somewhere else. Just to show them how it dropped. You can just use that to drag and drop a point, and then it'll ask you to plan that particular spot. See how it brings that up? You can click on plan, and now you can see, okay, now we can build a three-legged plan and make it go wherever we want. You can check the weather this way, and then you can grab the points that you're going to be going to, and you can drag them. That's the thing about this, is it's really a reference-only site, but it's very powerful reference-only site. So build the plan how you want to fly it, and then write down on your kneeboard or notepad what sites you're going to be going to, and they pop up right up there in the top left corner. As you can see, as Bob's sitting here building this, it is building that list right up there in the top corner, and you can take the major airports or the major areas that you're going to be flying to and jot them down, and then we're going to transfer that to your actual FAA flight form plan, or you can also go to flightplan.com, which is what we're going to show you how to use here online. And you can do this one of a couple ways. If you indulge in the rest of our course, we're going to lay out every one of the different options that you can use for flight planning, filing. But the big one is 1-800-WX-BRIEF. That's a phone call. You tell them where you're going. Give them all the information on your flight planning form, which includes a lot of the information that's popping up right here in the left-hand corner. And then just give it to them. They file your flight plan, tell you who to open it with. You're good to go. Additionally, you go to flightplan.com. You can just put it all in on flightplan.com, assuming that you have one of their free accounts, and then it'll automatically file it through the computer, through the internet system, and then you're good to go. Do you have anything you want to add to that? I think I pretty much covered
I think
basics.
I think we're going to be going into a lot more detail here on future calls for guys, especially when it comes to chart phraseology, chart symbology, FAA flight planning, because there's some things that I really want to discuss when it comes to pre-flight planning of an aircraft, routes of flights, where are we going, point A to point B. Some real high-level stuff that we use at the corporate jet and in the airline level that we can apply directly to general aviation flying in VFR conditions or even IFR conditions. I mean, that's really the realm that I work in a lot. I love my VFR flying, but the IFR world is where you can gain a lot of skills that you can apply directly to VFR flying. And so I'd like to pass some of those along to your guys on the next call or two.
Heck yeah, I look forward to seeing that, and we're gonna break this down. A lot of there's a few extra points on this here. Like alternate airports, the time distance heading chart. We're gonna break that down. We don't have the time to get into that, or we'll seriously overwhelm you. But that stuff is really good practice to get into this. And like I said, all of these videos, everything that we're giving you is going to be laid out in the weather course and the flight planning course, maps, charts, airspace review. We're going to add this all in there so that you guys can have access to it. Okay. Anything else? That's all I've got, Bob.
So, that's all I've got. That's all I've got for today. I'm looking forward to meeting with these guys on the next call.
Thanks a lot, Bob. I really enjoyed having you on this call today with me. Okay.
Me too. Thanks, Matt.
All right. See you.